Hey guys, welcome back to this week's pull here on Comic Relief Cast. I'm your host Jake.
And I'm Josh. Hey Jake,
What's
I got
up?
a quick question for you.
Alright, what?
What are you reading?
I'm reading quite a bit today. It's a bit, you know, it's weird. This week, there wasn't a lot of like new ongoing titles and new issues in those ongoing titles, but there's a lot of new issues out this week. So, starting off, we're going to be going over Sandman Universe The Dreaming, issue 2. I'm going to be reviewing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the macro series Donatello.
Umbrella Academy, I guess Umbrella Academy, I'll tell you later.
Yeah. Batman 56.
Adventures of Supersons, number 3.
Justice League number 9. The Witching Hour, Wonder Woman Justice League Dark number 1. The Magic Order number 4.
Batman and the Maxx Arkham Dreams, number 1.
Green Arrow 45 and United States vs. Murder Inc. number 2. All right, starting off with Sandman Universe The Dreaming number 1 by Simon Spurrier and Bill Quist-Evely. Interesting. Interesting name. So, if you guys have been reading the Sandman Universe stuff and some of the spin-offs, The Dreaming and the House of Whispers, we really like the Sandman Universe number 0. We were not big on the House of Whispers, but I really enjoying The Dreaming. The main character, Merv, Pumpkinhead, I think is a fantastic character.
I agree. And then also, Evely's artwork and the way he draws Marv is so great because it looks kind of cartoony, but at the same time he shows so much expression in the Pumpkinhead.
Yeah, the pumpkin, Merv is very emotive, and I love that about it. But yeah, the one thing about this is it's a very heavy read. There's a lot to read.
Yeah, there is.
It's an issue that this is gonna take you a while to read, and there's a lot to unpack. There's a lot of metaphor going on, and what I kind of realized about this is, you know, in the dreamscape where anything is possible and everything is real, Spurrier here is he's trying to make it like, you know, even in this dream world, there's all this upkeep. It kind of reminds me of like if you go to like the Land of Illusion or a haunted house or of some
like
kind, right?
Park.
Everything that goes on behind the scenes to do it. But in the dream world, how much it just almost doesn't make sense to have to do that, right? The dream world should just kind of operate on its own, but there's all these things behind the scenes, all these people working behind the scenes to try and keep it up going for the people to not realize they're in the dream world. And I think that's a really cool idea.
It's taken a concept that we all can kind of relate to, and it's just given this like new little edge of something that we already don't really quite understand exactly, and it just kind of adds this nice little flair to it. And I mean, also I just wanted to throw out there, with on top of the expressions on Marv's face and the way he's drawn, also the way he's written.
Yeah,
it's a full-fledged character. Like you have met someone like this. Granted, he probably didn't have a pumpkin on his head unless it was Dwight Schrute. But Office reference. Okay, whatever. But still, this book is really good, and the artwork is fantastic. The writing's great on it. A lot better than House of Whispers. It
is. I love Merv. He's this blue collar, salt of the earth worker down in the dream world, and he's got the he's not so literate. He doesn't speak well. He's not eloquent or anything like that. But I really love his character. You laugh with him. You almost feel for him at times. You understand where he's coming from, and I just like that he's thinking like this world is so far from perfect, which you'd think in the dream world anything that's possible, it should almost be. What I think they're trying to do is equate it to heaven, you know, but how imperfect this world is and how he's just like, I'm just trying to do my job here. And the lengths that he's trying to go to figure out or to try and get everything back on track. While there's also this mystery of who this woman is. And I forget her name. Do you remember her name?
Oh, I can't remember off the top of my head.
She's got
so much
yeah,
today.
She's got the wings for ears, and like it's really hinting at that, and it's creating a lot of intrigue.
Into a big monster too.
She can do a lot of stuff, and what I'm assuming is that she's actually a person, a human, who's able to enter the dream world, and because she knows she's dreaming, she can do whatever she wants.
Well, that, and plus also she can feel, you know, what's going on to the person who is dreaming at the time. Like,
yeah.
She can see what's going on in the outside world for that person too.
Yeah. So with that, guys, I'm going to unveil the new rating system for this episode, and I'm going to give this one 3.75 Hippomacrits.
God damn it, 3.75 Hippomacrits right over here too.
All right, and then I'm going to go real quickly. There's a new issue, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, a macro series, all based on Donatello. It's a $7.99 issue. It's almost packaged like a trade paperback graphic novel.
Prestige edition.
Yeah, it's a great little material. It's great anyway, and it's by Paul Allor, and the art is by Bram Revel. And because Donatello is my favorite turtle, I wanted to read this and see what this is all about. Now, I realized as soon as I went into this, I am missing a lot of information because apparently this is taking place in between actual arcs. It's not just like, here's a standalone spin-off Donatello series. It is in canon with whatever story is being told, and I'm not keeping up with the Ninja Turtles. So I can't say whether or not it's accurate or whatever, but there's a Machine Head who's like this kind of cyborg robotic version of a turtle, and Donatello is teaming up with him to try and basically create technology that can predict the future. And it's an okay read. I was looking forward to more kind of just getting underneath the skin of Donatello and seeing, you know, how he works in conjunction with the rest of his brothers, how he's a unique facet to the team. And unfortunately, I didn't really get that, and I'm kind of tired of Donatello being written the way he is. He's the nerd, he's the scientist guy, so he's not a good fighter, and that's not the character I grew up with. But from the stuff I've read in Ninja Turtles over the past few years, that's what they're relegating him to, and I'm not liking that at all, because he's just as much of a fighter and part of it as a ninja as the rest of his.
So would you say that he is turtly enough for the Turtle Club?
He's not turtly enough. He's not turtly enough. But and, you know, it's bothersome as a Donatello fan because I feel like the guy is constantly getting the shaft. So for me, I'm you know, it's a $7.99 price point. It is a good size issue, but if, you know, as a Donatello fan, and they are doing a macro series for the other 3 characters as well, the 3 brothers, but not something that I'm probably going to be picking up. So I'm going to give this one just 2 Hypocrites.
All right. So I read Umbrella Academy Hotel Oblivion #1. By Gerard Way and Gabrielle Ba. I'm pretty sure that's how you say that. Gabrielle Ba. I really liked Umbrella Academy, and it's kind of like X-Men mixed with BPRD. I know you've never read it before, but it's kind of this cool kind of taste to it, and the artwork it reminds me a lot of kind of like Magnolia. This was a really good read. The only problem is it's such a long time since I read Umbrella Academy, because it was a while back when it came out, that I need to reread that before this. So if you're someone who is a first-time reader of Umbrella Academy, this will seem a little confusing for you. It's not a good starting on point, in my opinion. And for that, I'm going to give this a 2.5 Hypocrite.
All right. Moving on to Batman #56 by Tom King and Tony Daniel. Now, this is the first foil cover that we're going over today. So DC all month is going to be putting out foil covers for all their titles, and Batman and Green Arrow are the first ones to get them this week, as opposed, and there's a couple others.
There's a new DC heroes.
Yeah, like anyway, yeah, there's a few of them that are coming out. But if you guys are interested in, and they're kind of like Dark Knight's Metal, and they did the foil covers for that. But these ones are actually a little bit more embossed too. So they're nice covers. It's a good-looking issue. They raised the price point to $3.99, which I think they were $2.99 before.
Yeah, they were originally $2.99.
So, you know, only an extra $1. But the first thing you're going to notice is Tony Daniel's art in this. The dude is killing it. He is better than I've ever seen him before in this book. He draws Batman to look so goddamn good. Everything in here looks spectacular. There are a couple characters in here that I'm not too sure who they are. Josh and I were both, you know, talking like, is this Bronze Tiger? Because, you know, we're not really sure.
With Tom King, you're used to getting very obscured characters that's from like dark corners of the DC universe.
Right. So this is, if you guys, I mean, obviously if you're listening to this, you hopefully read the last Batman issue. Dick Grayson gets shot at the end. It's KGBeast who's done it, so Batman is after KGBeast. Now this book though it's a filler issue for all intents and purposes. It's not getting you to the conflict of KGBeast. It doesn't even show Dick Grayson at all. That was a disappointment to me.
I liked it. It wasn't that great of an issue. I don't really view it as much of a filler issue because, I mean, the whole thing is him, like you see Batman hunting down for KGBeast. That's the whole point of this whole book, is him trying to find where KGBeast is. So he's working towards that. The Nightwing part, I feel like what they're doing is that they're saving the Nightwing stuff for the Nightwing book that also came out this week. It doesn't have a foil cover though, but it came out this week as well. And on the cover, it shows like him having the little scar on his head. So I'm assuming Tom King was probably being respectful and was saving that for the Nightwing. I can't speak for it because I haven't read Nightwing yet. But that's what I'm assuming. The reason why you don't have Nightwing in there is because they're wanting you to pick up Nightwing and read Nightwing to find out what happens to him.
That's exactly what they want you to pick up, another title. For this book, though, I just don't feel like there's a lot of substance. There's a good couple moments with KGBeast and his father. Batman is getting absolutely no character development in this book. But the thing is, like I said, it just doesn't feel like there's a lot of substance to this book. It was the quickest read I had for this episode, bar none. But it does look great. So with that, I'm going to just go ahead and give it 2.25 Hippocrites.
I'm at 2.5. Out of Tom King books, I normally don't like them. I've been liking them a lot lately, and this is probably the least favorite one I've read of it, but at least it's not as bad as what I used to think Tom King
it's not as bad as it has been in the past, but it's not up to par with the past few weeks of Tom King.
And I agree with you on that. I mean, there isn't really a whole lot of substance. There's not a whole lot of, meat onto this bone.
Yeah. And I don't want listeners out there to think that we are just dogging on DC all the time. There are some good inclusions in this one, but I feel like a lot of people are mad that we're not liking, Batman and a couple other titles a little bit so much.
Which is really weird, because I feel like if you ask us, we would tell you right now, majority of the titles that we like, that we really, really love, are mostly from DC, even though we are mostly Marvel fanboys. Marvel has picked up their game, yes, but...
And to contradict everything we just said, I'm going to go over the new Justice League issue 9 by Scott Snyder and Jimenez. Now, as you guys have been listening in the past, every issue that we've done of the new Scott Snyder Justice League, I have not been a fan of. The only issue I was a fan of was the first one, Legion of Doom, was by James Tynion that he wrote. But this book is really no different. There are some things in this book that are to like. I do like a few things, but one thing that really stuck out was the very first thing. Scott Snyder does not understand these characters. He literally says to Superman from Batman, Superman, with you holding your breath in space. Superman does not need to hold his breath in space. I know this is a fanboy nitpick, but it just tells me that Snyder is not doing his homework on these characters. Superman can fly out in space. He can fly and survive in the vacuum of space. He doesn't hold his breath in space. That was my first trigger in this book. I went, damn it, okay, fine. But then the next thing is Batman is getting this weird surgery done, and then he says he puts on this armor, and it's like a cave all on its own. It's weird. But what's going on in this book doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but but at the heart of this book are some slower moments between Wonder Woman and Aquaman, and I do enjoy their exchange. They're talking a lot about Wonder Woman and what she does and what she does for the team and what she's bringing towards the team. And those slower moments I really dig. Those are the things that I'm looking for. This is also a Drowned Earth tie-in, I believe. Right?
Yes, it is a Drowned Earth. It's the second part of it. The first part was in the last Aquaman issue.
And towards the very end of this book, it also doesn't make a whole lot of sense about the exchange. But the exchange between Batman and Superman does not make a whole lot of sense, and that really bothered me, the way they ended it. There's just no explanation for anything. But there are some okay character moments in this, so it's not a complete bust in my opinion. But it's just nice to see that the Justice League themselves are kind of just hanging out in the Hall of Justice and kind of talking and working through some of their issues. So it's not so bad. For that, I'm going to just go ahead, though. I'm going to give this one just 2 Hippocrites.
2 Hippocrites. All right, I read Adventures of the Supersons 3. It's a 12-issue Maxi series, not Maxi Pad. It's written by Peter Tomasi, and pencils are done by Carlo Barberi. Okay, so the first issue I really loved. Second issue, it's kind of going a little downhill. This issue goes up a little bit. It's just a very fun issue. It's it's kind of like a tell, but with Robin and Superboy, and them having to fight these kids who are fans, who are from another planet, who are fans of the villains and
the
superheroes,
Legion of Doom,
and the Legion of Doom. So they're recreating it, and it's a very fun issue. It reminds me of the way cartoons used to be. Like back in the 90s, I'm going
early 2000s.
Yeah, early 2000s. It just reminds me of that. The artwork is great. The story is fun. It's I don't like this one as much as what I liked the first issue, but I still really enjoyed it. Everything down to a dead shot, or fat dead shot, not dead shot.
Like kid chubby fat.
Yeah,
dead
like
shot?
kid chubby fat dead shot. But yeah, I say this is a great issue. I enjoyed it. I give it easily a 3 Hippocrites.
All right, and we both read The Witching Hour, the Wonder Woman and Justice League Dark kind of, what would you call it, like a tie-in to those? I mean, this is kind of starting up
one-shot tie-in.
Yeah, okay, so that's what, by James Tynion and Marino. And this one, the first thing I noticed was that the first couple pages feel exactly like the what you read in the very beginning of Justice League Dark #2. So it feels like it's retreading some material that we've already read. It didn't feel absolutely necessary, but it's going on more and more about Wonder Woman's ties to the magic world, and then it's about how the magic is kind of affecting the rest of the DC universe, and how the Justice League they're not really feeling it, or they're not really sure what to make of it. And there's the fact that
they're like, I ain't feeling this magic.
No, they see Wonder Woman as visibly shaken, and that kind of shakes them a bit too. But there isn't a lot of reveal in this book, but I will say there is. It's kind of a necessary read for Justice League Dark. That's how I feel. Like if you've been reading Justice League Dark, this is a necessary read, and for the price point of the book, which is $4.99, it's a big issue. It's gonna take you a while to read this one as well, just like The Dreaming. This was a book that probably took me longer than any other book to read this week. There's a lot to unpack. There's a lot of good stuff, and somebody who's gonna eat his own words. I really love Bobo, the chimp. I hated Bobo the chimp during the Dark Knight's Metal tie-in at the very end, but I love him in Justice League Dark.
It's an ongoing thing. I feel like I feel like every time we review a Justice League Dark thing, like we always have to address the fact that you used to hate Bobo.
I know, but
now you love Bobo.
I do love me some Bobo in this. But other than that, you're just kind of seeing how the magics are being destroyed or how they're being tampered with, and it's a good continuation from Justice League Dark. Honestly, this feels like it could have been Justice League Dark issue 4 for me.
For me, yeah, it was great. The art is great at times. There's a couple of panels where I was kind of on. The one thing I take from this is the same reason why I didn't read Justice League, but it's not the same reason. But it's one thing that Snyder could take a little hint at. Like, he's really good. Tynion's really good at writing for all the Justice League members.
He is.
He knows how to write for Batman. He knows how to write for Flash. He knows how to write for Hawkgirl.
And
Superman,
John Jones.
And John Jones. I'm really loving the Justice League Dark series. This is a good issue. I do feel like you get a little bit of reveal, but just like with as much that you get in this book, you feel like you'd get something a little bit bigger.
It feels like more backstory than anything else, but
I don't really think it's backstory as much. I feel like the first few pages is backstory.
I think a lot of it's backstory, because there's even the time in Bobo's bar where he's not even there, where you're hearing more backstory from some of the other female magic users and stuff like that. There's a lot of backstory.
There's some backstory,
but it's fleshing out the story as a whole.
Yeah, and also it just kind of makes you understand a little bit more about each character and a little bit more about the incident that happened to Wonder Woman when she was younger. But all in all, this is a great book. Bobo is very fun in this, to the point that I love Swamp Thing, and Swamp Thing's overshadowed by Bobo.
By the smallest character on the team.
Yeah.
So this is, I think, if you guys are reading Justice League Dark, this is a perfect companion piece. It's a must pick up for Justice League Dark if you're already pulling that. For me, I'm going to give it a really solid 3.5 Hypocrites. I want to give it 3.75, but I just can't bring myself to do it. But solid 3.5.
I give it 3.5 Hypocrites. I'm right there with you. I want to give it 3.75, but there's just this little, I don't know. There's
if it had something more,
it was so big, and it was so big, and there was just such a little, bigness.
Yeah. Okay.
I can't word today.
Yeah. All right.
Such big pigs. Yeah.
All right, The Magic Order #4 by Mark Millar and Oliver Copiel. I am absolutely loving this series. Again, guys, this is the first Netflix-produced comic book, so if you can find the first 3 issues of this, get this book. I really think that this might be kind of Millar's, hey, I'm going to do this for you guys, make this comic book, and then you have the rights to make a Netflix series out of it, and I think this would make a killer Netflix series. This is just a much darker version of like the Harry Potter world, but if you mix in a little bit of real world 1940s history to it, So if you guys have been reading The Magic Order, this is the best issue by far. You're finally getting a lot of answers, and it's like the team coming together. The first 3 issues was setting the stage and kind of a fractured Magic Order. This is it coming together like, all right, it's time to kick some ass. I absolutely love this book. 3.75 Hypocrites.
Wow.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, just for anybody who is collecting or wanting to collect Magic Order, especially if you suspect it is going to go up in price, right now you can easily find that book in dollar bins.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, I just came across a whole set of them.
Did you really?
In a dollar bin.
That's some bullshit, but okay.
Yeah, I know. All right, I read Batman and the Maxx, Arkham Dreams by Sam Keith, who is also the creator of the Maxx. I read this because I was intrigued. Seeing the Maxx and Sam Keith's art reminds me a lot of my childhood, and it reminds me a lot of the 90s. And then I read this, and it still reminds me a lot of the 90s. If you're a huge fan of the Maxx, this is perfect for you.
Yeah.
If you are a person who is very nostalgic and miss some kind of 90s comics, kind of like if you really dig Batman Kings of Fear, this is better than Batman Kings of Fear in a sense. But long story short, this is definitely very nostalgic and very about the 90s. For me, that doesn't do anything because in the 90s, even though I get nostalgic about it, I still was not old enough to read the Maxx and fully understand what it was all about. So I'm going to give this 2.5 hypocrites.
Okay. Yeah, I don't care about 90s image, to be honest. So.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to Green Arrow issue 45, and this is another one. It's a foil cover. Got Alex Maleev doing that gorgeous cover. I love it. And then the writers are Julie Benson and Shauna Benson, and then the artist is Javier Fernandez. So, guys, if you have been checking out Heroes in Crisis, this is a Heroes in Crisis tie-in book. It wasn't solicited that way until very recently, but this is a Heroes in Crisis tie-in book, and it's going to probably upset a lot of fans. This is going to be a controversial issue only for the fact that after Heroes in Crisis issue 1, a lot of us were like, wait, maybe Wally really isn't dead, maybe Arson, Roy Harper isn't really dead, and a couple others aren't really dead. This one solidifies the fact that Roy Harper is in fact dead. This is a funeral issue for Roy Harper. It's extremely well written. It's got some great tearjerker moments. It tugs at the heartstrings. This is the kind of thing that you want from a book like Green Arrow. If you guys have been following this series has constantly been hitting great checkpoints. I mean, it's got some lows, but I mean, for the most part, this has been a peak book, and this is no different.
I think with the Green Arrow run, I think there's only really 2 books that are kind of like a low point in the whole series, and even then, it's not even that low.
No.
But no, this is a great book. And you say this is what you would want from a Green Arrow book. It's not just what you want from a Green Arrow book, but this is also what you would want from an event.
Yeah.
You know, this is showing you how it affects the whole community, and now I want so badly to start singing Brenda's Baby by Tupac, but I'm not going to do that because you probably don't understand that. Okay, but it's
so white.
Yeah, I know you are. But no, man, this book it definitely has some tearjerker moments. This Green Arrow is, as we were talking about before we did the podcast, it's the unsung hero of DC Comics. A lot of people don't really care about the Green Arrow run.
Underrated Rebirth series.
It is hands down the one that's been the most consistently the best. Even The Flash, which is one of my favorite DC titles, has moments where it's really low. And I'm talking like a few moments where it gets down where it's pretty low and you're kind of like, I don't know if I want to keep reading this. There's only been a couple of moments where it's ever been really low. And this is one of the ups. For me, this was one of my favorite reads from DC this week.
It's one of my favorite reads from DC almost consistently.
Yeah, it's usually always a guarantee, but this one, it's very rare that a book almost gets me where I'm like, don't cry, you pussy bitch.
Yeah.
Don't cry.
I want to see Alex Maleev on Green Arrow. That's what I want to see. I want to see him on the interiors. But anyway, I'm going to give this one a very strong, solid 4.0 hypocrites. This was my favorite issue for this episode.
Man, I wish that you didn't say 4 because that's what I was going to say. I hate when we're doing the same numbers.
I got to start letting you just go first.
Yeah, I know. It's 4 hypocrites for me. It was definitely my favorite read from DC.
All right, guys. And the last thing we're going to cover is United States versus Murder, Inc. It's one of the Jinx World imprints from Brian Michael Bendis and Michael Yvonne Oming. And this is, the second issue, and it's this thing, even though it's drawn kind of like a Kim Possible cartoon series, it is the furthest thing as far as content goes. This thing is just gory, it's mean-spirited, it's really fucked up, and I really love it.
Yeah, I love it's really great, and it's cool too because they have these big splash pages, a couple of big splash pages in it, and you wouldn't think with like in a comic book if it was like something that was really cartoony kind of drawing that you would really go, man, that's a great splash page. This is they have some fantastic splash pages, and the way that the panel art is laid out, it's fun. It reminds you kind of like you'd almost look at this and think it was a kid's comic and then realize how gory and dark it can get.
There are some panels in this book that absolutely stick with me as far as imagery goes, and it's not even the brutal ones; it's the ones that are just well composed.
Yeah.
And there are a few that I'm like, man, I would love to see something like this. But you know, I know what's funny. Reading this, I think this is the kind of comic book Quentin Tarantino would try and adapt to film. That's what this feels like to me.
Yeah, and I mean a lot of Bendis's early stuff that he didn't do from like Jinx World, but it was dealing with that universe. It all kind of has that feel. That's what he likes to write, and that's what he usually is best at writing is like criminal noir type.
It reminds me of Kill Bill. That's what it reminds me of.
It does kind of remind you of Kill Bill.
Instead of like the ninja stuff though, it's much more like mob, pipe hitters. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man, it's great. This book was very fun.
Yeah, the only detriment to this book is that it's not a long read. It doesn't take very long to get through it, because it's very visual. It's a very visual book.
Yeah.
And so it's a quick read, but I do like it. And so for that, that's the only detriment really. I'm just going to give it 3 points.
Wait. Let me
go
first,
because
I want to make sure.
You cut me off right at the right point.
I know.
All right, good.
I was like, okay. So with this book coming out, this is my favorite Jinx World title.
Okay, mine's still Scarlet.
Yeah, I'd figured that's kind of more up your alley.
It is.
But this is my favorite Jinx World, but covers like right there with it, and so is Scarlet. But this is my favorite. And with that being said, I'm giving this a 3.75 Hippomacrits.
Okay, I'm going 3.5 Hippomacrits. So
okay.
That's what I was going to say.
Okay, really?
Way.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool.
All right, guys. Well, that is all we have for you on this week's DC and Indie poll. We really appreciate you guys listening this far. Definitely make sure you hit that thumbs up button for us. Comment below. Let us know your thoughts on any of these books. Share this around with your friends if they like comic books, anything like that. Give us some love, help us gain some more traffic, and of course, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, guys. We're getting a lot of love, we're getting a lot of support. We really appreciate it, and if you haven't already, check out the Marvel one that's on this channel, and if you already have, we will see you guys next week with the next early weekly polls.
Check out James Eversole Jr. Movie Podcast.